Hi, today I'm going to do a purple smoky eye look, and this has been requested a lot. I'm not that surprised because purple is a really popular colour. It looks amazing, particularly on green eyes, but it doesn't look bad on hazel and brown eyes either. And if you've got blue eyes, the makeup police aren't going to arrest you, so I think it looks good on most. I'm going to go straight onto the eyes because I'm going to use powders, and they tend to drop down even if you're really clever, and I never get the point of either powdering or trying to clean up the foundation afterwards. Save time and just do the foundation afterwards. That's what I do anyway. So I'll get most of the powder on. I'm going to use one of the palettes from Estee Lauder's autumn collection, Blue Dahlia. This collection's been designed by Tom Pescier, and Tom and I shared an agency in Paris together years ago, and I've met him several times, and he is absolutely so lovely, and he's done a brilliant job, and it's a great collection. I'm not going to use the blue palette because that's the one in the advertising, and Tom has done an awesome job on that. It looks great. I'm going to use this one, the purples. I'm going to use the sort of violety shade at the top of the palette. To start with, I'm going to use a sponge applicator. So I'm just packing the sort of lightest shade at the top, the pinky violet, all over the lid. Getting it on nice and bold. So I've used a very deep shade now in the centre of the palette, and I'm just blending some of it off on the back of my hand. I'm going to start using it along my socket line and pushing it into the socket. I'm going to take it about 2/3 of the way along. I'm not going to go too dark into here just because it doesn't suit me particularly. It kind of makes my eyes look too close together, so if your eyes are very close together, avoid kind of really shading in here. Keep it a little bit lighter there, but if you've got lots of space, then yeah, take it into the corner. Just using a slightly larger brush just to begin a bit of blending into that socket line. And now I'm just going to build up the intensity a little bit more. Really pushing it into the socket to create some depth. So next I'm going to use this Deep Plum pencil by Pixi, and I'm going to use it to, it's really soft, so I'm going to use it to go along the lash line. And then I'm just going to dot it along underneath, really pushing it into the lashes, and a touch on the waterline as well. So I've used the pencil on both eyes, really working it into the roots of the lashes, top and bottom, and along the waterline. So now we're going to use the very small blending brush, and I'm using the darkest shade with the very vivid violet colour at the bottom. I'm going to start really just smoking in this line on the top. That was pretty soft, that pencil, so first I'm going to just smooth along it, and then I'm going to start just buffing along. And the same underneath, breaking down that pencil and adding the violety shade. I'm just going to add a touch more of the violet, and into the inner corner there. It's quite nice and vivid, that colour, like nice and bright. So I've finished putting all the colours on the eyes. I haven't quite finished blending them in and just smoking them up. I'll do a little bit more of that. Before we do anything, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of Bioderma on a cotton and just clean up underneath, because although it looks like there's nothing there, I always find that when you do your foundation, it always looks a little bit grubby. And there you can see it's quite a bit on the skin of the purple. Right, I'm just going to patch up my primer very quickly and move on to base. I'm going to use the Makeup Forever HD foundation, which I had on in the anti-aging tips video, and lots of people left comments saying that they find it really hard to use, and it can look heavy and it doesn't work on dry skin and blah blah blah. So my thoughts on that are, A lot of the Makeup Forever products are a bit like, the analogy I would use is when you say about people's hair, she's got fine hair but there's a lot of it. And their pigments are very, very fine, which is why this foundation is good, but there's a lot of them. So they're very intense. It's like the HD blush as well. I mean, in a way, you never need a full pump of any of these products because they're so intense and they're so sort of tightly packed. The best way to use them is to use a lot less than you think, which is great because they last forever. But also, Makeup Forever lasts forever. But also, you have to sort of think about how you apply it. Like if you've got very dry, flaky skin, I wouldn't apply it with a sort of buffing action with a foundation brush because it tends to act as an exfoliator and start to sort of take the skin off. If you have got dry skin, I think this is better applied with a damp sponge is good, or you can use a damp foundation brush, but really think about a little bit goes a long way. And if you get it thin enough, it's just lovely and fine and looks great on the skin. I'm going to use this, which is Clinique's Moisture Surge Face Spray, which I use a lot in my kit just for spraying brushes and spraying faces. It's basically water. You can use water if you want, but it has a little bit of moisture, a little bit of slip in it, and it'll work well with this foundation because it's a silicone and water formulation anyway, so it's going to go well. So I'm going to put probably half a pump, if that, on the back of my hand and just work it into the brush, into the slightly damp brush. And then I'm going to start in the centre of my face, which is where most people need the majority of their foundation. And then I'll sort of thin it out a lot more. And you just need to really think that that is basically what I've got on already is going to more or less do my whole face if I can just spread it thin enough. So just really work it in. And if you have got dry, flaky skin, I think let sleeping dogs lie. Don't try and buff them up and going back and forward. Just sort of smooth it over and sort of, you know, don't sort of wind it up. Be quite gentle. Okay, so on to concealer. A couple of people have asked me recently what's a good sort of pen style concealer that's cheap. Or cheaper than the Clinique one that I often use, and the one I think is quite good is this Revlon Colourstay. I'm going to use this one. It's in Fair and it's got a little bit of a spongy applicator, so I think in a way you sort of still need a brush because it's not so easy to apply, or you can use your fingers, but the applicator is not great, but the product itself is really, really good and it's long lasting. What's nice about it is it's got obviously a lot of light reflection. It's 75% titanium dioxide, but it's also got a lot of coverage in it. So next I'm just going to put a really fine layer of MAC Skinfinish powder in light medium all over, keeping it super light. And what happens is actually when you put your foundation on after your eyeshadow, you'll see you've got this weird step where you can sort of really see where the concealer ends. That's fine. You just have to go back and kind of finish off underneath. So using the dark shade in the centre again of the palette and the really vivid violet, I'm just going to go back and finish off my smoking underneath and just get rid of that. Because I'm not using much product, there's hardly anything on the brush at all. There's not going to be anything dropping down here. Just finishes it off really nicely and looks more polished. And smoke it down as far as you can, really. I've got quite small features, so I can't go too far down. It looks kind of crazy. And I'm just going to reinstate the vivid violet again to the inner corner. So it's very violet-y just in the corners. Okay, now before I finish off the top there, I just want to curl my eyelashes and put on some mascara. So I've got my mascara on. I put plenty of Max Factor False Lash Effect in black. If you've got green eyes, I would use a really plummy mascara or an aubergine mascara, something that's got a little bit more colour in, just to sort of emphasise the green even more. And I've done my brows, but I hardly did anything to them. I just filled in a couple of gaps and filled in there. So I think that you can't really finish off smoky eyes till you've got your mascara on, because then you can sort of really look in the mirror and see kind of what you need to do. Like you might find that once you've got the length and the sort of depth of the mascara, that you need to come, you know, further down here, or that you need to extend out or come up a little bit more. But at this stage you can start sort of finishing off your blending and really thinking about the shape there. If your eyes are really small, I wouldn't do the dark on the inner rim of the eye, and I'd concentrate more on this sort of smoking down and the dark into the socket and up here, because that way the depth is sort of away from your eyes and you get a much bigger looking eye. So what I'm thinking I need to do is just thicken up that line at the outer corner and almost have it join up with the start of the depth in the socket line. That's better. There's a nice pale highlighter here in the palette if you want to sort of break up that line, and also just to give a little bit of a highlight up there, and use it to sort of soften any lines that you've got. But to keep it modern, I wouldn't use too much of that. So now I need to do lips and cheeks, and the obvious thing to do would probably be a pale lip, but I think I'm not going to do that today. I don't really feel like doing it. It would look great, I think, pale pinks or even beiges or something a bit warmer, but I think I'm going to do something not dark, but I think I might do a red. I just saw a very nice red on here. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, fine, and I'll do my blusher afterwards to blend in with the lips if they work. This is a sort of sheer, it's a sheer bright red. It's by the Body Shop. I haven't used it before. I'm just going to work that in. Quite like this. I'll carry on and see how it turns out. Well, this is, I think, the technical word for it turned into a bit of a number, but I quite like it. I love this red. I'm just going to blot it. I think it's blotted and taken down. I think we can officially say now this is turning into an evening look, a nighttime look. Now I need exactly the right shade of blusher just to pull this all together. I need something that's got a bit of red in it, something that's quite warm, something that's going to fit in with the purple. So I'm just going to have a look. So I found this Bourjois blusher. It's Rose Amber, and I think it's going to be a good, it's going to work really well because it picks up a little bit of the lip colour, but also it works really well with the eyes, and it's going to look good on my skin. So to finish off, and bring the whole look together, I'm just going to put some soft blush onto the apples of the cheeks, and then just blend upwards, not too much because we've got a lot of everything going on there. Just keep it nice and soft. So there you have it. Please feel free to stop after you've done the eyes and use a more neutral lip colour. The eyes would look great anyway with any sort of nude or neutral. I think with the red though, I do quite like it. I think it's sort of become very kind of a little bit vampish, but not too much. And I think it's quite nice for the evenings. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching.